And today specifically, I'm going to talk about something really near and dear to my heart, which is about big ideas and the role of big ideas in the content arena. In the immortal words of David Ogilvy, you will never win fame and fortune unless you invent big ideas. It takes a big idea to attract the attention of consumers and to get them to buy your product. Unless your advertising contains a big idea, it will pass like a ship in the night. Now, I'm old enough to have worked in person with David Ogilvy in the early 90s in France. He was the most charming leader. And the lovely thing about him was in conversation with him, he would talk in quotes from his book without him even knowing it. The question for you is, how much of your content passes like a ship in the night? Never seen, never read, never viewed, other than by the team creating it. My hypothesis is that content on the whole is like a ship in the night, because the vast majority of content is invisible and ineffective. And a minuscule 5% of content generates 90% of engagement, according to Beacon, another intelligence firm. Said another way, 95% of your content does nothing, or another way, 95% of your content budget is wasted. So to those of you who are concerned that you don't have budget to do all the things you need to do, all you need to do is understand what percentage of your budget is driving the majority of your engagement and reinvest the balance to improve content quality and the pursuit of big ideas. There are very few big ideas in the content arena. A little bit later, I'm going to show you a few big ideas I'm aware of. But instead, content teams have become expert tacticians at building and converting audiences by fulfilling search intent and applying content to the customer journey. But too often, this leads to a categorical Me Too approach that are hard to differentiate from one another. We recently asked a group of young marketers at the Miami Ad School to draw an interpretive picture of the world of content marketing as they see it. Among the expected depictions of chaos and creativity was a world unlike the others. It was a haunting picture. It was an abandoned Soviet cityscape, devoid of color, bleak and frozen in time. We asked the students why. Because all of the content I see is so repetitive and functional. It wasn't post-apocalyptic, it was a world that had simply run out of ideas. Content from banks is a great example of this. Most banks generate significant amounts of decent quality content. But if you put your thumb on the logo on the page, it's hard to discern which brand this content is working for. There's an absence of differentiation, an absence of distinctness, an absence of empathy, and above all, an absence of a big idea. I dare you to spot which of these 6 pieces of content is from which bank or insurance company or financial services organization. Why is that? Maybe it's because content teams organizationally don't report to the head of marketing, but instead report to a brand leader, a media leader, or a digital leader. They don't necessarily see it as their role to come up with the big idea. But the big idea is the opportunity to make a difference. And because content teams have as much right to the audience insight, they're well placed to come up with that idea. In the age of loud competing ideas, how do you get yours heard? To help me think through this session, I reached out to a group of my all-time favorite creative directors who I've worked with throughout my career in Los Angeles, New York, London, Chicago, Singapore, Sydney, to ask their advice about how to define, develop, and nurture big ideas. Thanks very much to this team for responding so quickly and with such alacrity. I even had Simon Loudon, the CMO of PepsiCo, weigh in as well to make sure that we had a CMO perspective. And there are some lessons for brand teams and content teams alike. First, what is a big idea? My favorite definition came from Andy Greenaway, who's a creative leader who's worked at Ogilvy, Razorfish, Publicis, and others, based in Singapore. What Andy said is a big idea is distinct work that resonates with its audience, distinct resonance. These two words in the hand of someone who knows how to apply them to creative problems can unleash extraordinary power, not just artistic brilliance, but also economically. Distinct makes you get seen, resonance makes your audience care. A big idea expresses a sentiment, a truth, in a way that alters our minds' perceptions on a given topic or the world. A great idea causes tears, laughter, and pain, never indifference. It changes us in big and small ways. It's a tall order to be a big idea. That was from Manifest's Sasha Reeve, our creative leader. So what's the best way to generate a big idea? It's one thing to define it, but how do you generate? To do great work, you actually need two big ideas. There's no point just having a big creative idea if you haven't preceded it with an even bigger marketing idea. The big marketing idea works out why the prospect might be interested in your brand. What problem are we solving for them? And that should be memorialized in the brief, the creative brief, and expressed as a single-minded proposition. If this isn't right, the creative won't be right either. If the proposition is right, then all that's required is an idea that dramatizes and demonstrates that benefit held in the proposition. You also need to grasp the difference between a compelling insight and a mundane observation. One will lead to a breakthrough. The other is just going to lead to more mediocrity. In fact, audience insights are the foundation of big ideas. And audience insights can come from a diverse group of sources. If you're responsible for audience insights, you should enjoy being a contrarian. Be a skeptic of every research finding and ask why like a curious child. In fact, there's a classic exercise strategists use called the 5 whys. If you ask yourself why 5 times in a row about whatever you're seeing, it forces you towards an insight. Of course, you also need to have a culture which allows for those questions to be asked and for those questions to come from anyone in the team. You should also become a connoisseur of tension. Don't be afraid of tension. Don't think that it's going to put you in danger. If you're feeling tense, it probably means you're getting close to an idea. If you read case studies or creative briefs of famous campaigns from the Effies or Cannes, you'll notice they always present simple counter-narratives to conventional wisdom. Everyone thinks X, but they really care about Y. Find some you can flip on its head, and you'll be getting close. In Simon Loudon's words, he said the last place to go looking for a big idea is a big conference room and that infamous day-long brainstorm. More likely, the big ideas will come from the bottom up and from the front lines of customer management, where data is being captured and shows a trend that you can build on fast for competitive advantage. But what about data analytics? The content world is full of data, and this has become a real focus for insight mining in the world of content. Too often our reading of performance is surface level. We take the clear observation, anoint them as insights and call it a day. But more likely, insights that lead to breakthrough work reside in the long tail of topics or articles that you don't pay close attention to. There may be an anomaly far from the center of the graph that can be a hint of what may become mainstream. Look at the long tail of your topics for trends which are going to become mainstream in a year or two. That's where big ideas may be sitting. However you get to a compelling insight, for it to be applied in the content arena, you need to be able to answer this simple and brilliant question written by Jeffrey Director, Strategy Director at Manifest. What can your brand uniquely offer that your audience would truly value? That answer will lead to content worth making. So when do you know when you have a big idea? A big idea is easy to spot. It's like striking oil. You've been drilling for days, perhaps weeks, or if you're lucky, or maybe experienced, just hours. Suddenly it gushes up into the air. You know you've struck something because you can instantly see how it works in every medium, how it connects to consumers, how it solves the problem. Executions tumble out, content forms, content types, advertising, sales promotion, retail. You see it in all forms, and in this instance, it energizes you, it energizes the team around you. You're full of adrenaline. You can't wait to tell people about it. But be careful here. In the immortal words of Bill Bernbach, an idea can turn to dust or magic, depending on the talent that rubs against it. True ideas, original thoughts are incredibly fragile, especially during their childhood. Too many hands on them always prove fatal. There are many ideas that have died during the journey from the boardroom to the audience. Like a beautiful butterfly, a beautiful idea can be captured, put in a jar, and then it becomes accidentally suffocated. As hard as it is to conceive a big idea, it's much easier to kill an idea. You're always going to need others to help develop it, to sell it, to approve it, to execute it, and to promote it. So nurturing a big idea becomes a balance of when to retain tight control and when to let go and put it in the hands of people who are more talented than you. Just one other thought. A big creative idea looks like many other creative ideas if it isn't presented persuasively. And don't expect every colleague to see what you see in it, because many won't see its potential, will be afraid of being too different. Most marketers talk a good game about creativity, but when it takes time to actually stand up for something truly different and perhaps even uncomfortable, that's hard. A big idea should make you uncomfortable. It should make you squirm a little bit. If it doesn't, it's probably not a big idea. But above all, a big client depends on a great client, a great buyer of creativity, one who appreciates what it can do for the business and has the guts to stand behind it. This famous print ad for TRW reminded me of the journey that some big ideas go under. You may not be able to read it, but it says from top left, "I have an idea." A word of caution, a little too radical. I like it myself, but we tried something like that once. It's just not us. I wish it were that easy. Oh well, it was just an idea. Big ideas make you uncomfortable because you'll likely be going into new territory. One of the things Simon Loudon told me, in his view, is that brand managers need to retake responsibility for the curation of big ideas. Big ideas shouldn't be outsourced, even to your most trusted agency partners. The curation and management of the big idea needs to be in the hands of the marketing leader whose business he or she is responsible for. How can you create big ideas, or said another way, how can you create a distinct resonance? The first order for your content is to be distinct. In the words of Byron Sharp, a book you really should read, is that your brand and your content needs to stand out so that your audience can easily identify it through the use of design, tone of voice, distinct use of content types, your values, and your identity. Whatever you do, stop using those stock images which are overused maybe by your competitors. The second order is to develop content that demands attention. Like the best advertising, which never assumes the audience is waiting for your message, you should deliver your content in a way that makes a bold, memorable promise that entices your reader or your viewer to engage with the content. Dare I say it, but be more provocative with your headlines, even if it's at the risk of diluting your SEO reputation. The third order is to find resonance so that your audience truly cares. Find a need that they really care about. What better time to do this than now, when all of your customers' needs have been rapidly reprioritized as they seek safety, security, and community. The fourth order is to build a team of both content experts and creative experts. Content experts often are not the best big idea generators. They're happier writing a brilliant story, less happy working out how to bring an audience to that story. That's why the combination of creative teams and content teams can create a powerful combination, effectively a parallel organization working together, so you have the best of both worlds, not one or the other. This is one of the mistakes most agencies have made, is that they have creative teams creating content. They should be focused more on advertising rather than having an editorial sensibility that you find in a pure play content agency. To finish with, I'd like to share you 5 big ideas in the content world. Big ideas in my view. You may disagree, but I want to show these to you and explain why I view these as big ideas, and also discuss an issue with one of them that may have become even too big an idea for its own master brand. The first is Craft Food and Family. Craft Food and Family is a 20-year-old program that's really shown the way for packaged goods companies to build an owed audience with content across all channels. Craft Food and Family is far and away the most efficient marketing investment within Kraft Heinz, 4 times more efficient than any other marketing investment. The content is so good that consumers pay for it. They receive a quarterly subscription magazine. The content is so good is that non-competitive advertisers pay to reach Kraft's audience. Now, General Mills Tablespoon is making headwinds into Kraft's audience. But if you're in the packaged goods arena, that the Kraft assignment is one to look at and to watch. The second one is American Express's Open Forum, an online community that helps small business owners connect, share ideas, and make small business decisions. Launched in 2007, Open Forum's consistent and audience-appropriate personality and its effortless tie-in with the overall American Express brand has really been a gold standard in the content world. And over time, the content has been distributed across several platforms and even became American Express's advertising strategy. It combined the right experts, good curation skills, and a laser focus on their audience. However, over time, there's been some commentary about declining engagement levels and maybe unimaginative use of content types. And the open idea was retired a couple of years ago. And I don't know exactly why. Maybe there's someone from American Express who's listening, but I suspect that Open became maybe distracting to the American Express brand. It became too big a brand, maybe too big a brand for American Express's master brand. And now if you go looking for American Express's business promise, you find don't do business without it. And the content has moved more directly underneath it. One of my favorites is Yeti, one of the newer brands into the content arena. But Yeti really successfully uses content to build brand authenticity through the use of documentary style films, editorial stories, and in this case, a wonderful magalog that combines products with editorial thinking. This brand is so confident, it actually talks about products it's not even responsible for selling. If you look on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see products it likes because it meets an audience need. That's true audience first thinking and the hallmark of a big idea. And lastly, BizTech. BizTech is a series of content programs that's a long-standing vehicle for CDW, the IT retailer, who speak to various industries around hardware and software solutions. The big idea here is the brave move by CDW to create several media brands and to use these as a vehicle to educate and inspire their customers. Most recently, they've been talking about how to inspire good student behavior while video conferencing, something my children need to read. They even spoke about cybersecurity. Rather than just talking about it themselves, they got the head of IT from the CIA to talk about cybersecurity. So that's wonderful sourcing of storytellers. Over time, these media brands have become synonymous with CDW and produce ROI that would make your eyes water. I believe it's 11 to 1 or 12 to 1. The content is so good that CDW's vendors pay to participate in this program. What separates these big ideas is that they pass the test of time. They survive. It's a campaign idea. It's a big idea which works from year to year. You'll need to dig deep to come up with big ideas that stand out, demand attention, and resonate with your audience. Perhaps you'll even need to go against the grain. But that is where your content strategy can go from checking boxes to being truly distinct. Big ideas have never been more necessary, in my view, or potentially more rewarding. Even though they carry risk and uncertainty, they also have the potential to break through in this world of ever-shrinking, meaningful media opportunities. Say or do something brave, and you can turn a cynical consumer into a loyal brand advocate who may even utter those highly sought-after words, "Usually I hate marketing, but I just loved this content." Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully we have a few minutes for questions. Let me just look to see if anything has come through. Kunal, are there any questions you can see? I'm just scrolling up to see if there are any questions you've got. Feel free to ask them at the bottom. I'm happy to share the presentation to you. Please just email me and I'll send you the presentation and even the script if you would like. The book I mentioned was Byron Sharp's book, How Brands Grow, which was written in 2012 and is one of the more important books in the marketing arena, especially if you're coming from a CRM perspective. Last call for any questions. Well, thanks very much, everyone. This is the end of the session. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and please email me if you have any questions or thoughts. Bye, everyone.